Dijonai Carrington is looking around the room like, oh my God, I've never been in this much fire. I mean, it's getting so bad that now her endorsements are potentially about to pull out on representing Dijonai Carrington.
This just goes to show that Dijonai has no self-awareness in what's going on. Dijonai Carrington runs on threads immediately. White privilege at Indiana Fever. White privilege. You running around with blonde hair. It looked like you trying to be white. It looked like you trying to be a white girl. What are you talking about white privilege? The white girl just got a technical foul for something she didn't even do. What are you talking about white privilege, bro? This is why she should be banned from the league. They always run.
It states here, Reebok is reportedly dropping their endorsement for Dijonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham. Let's go.
DJ Carrington has watched her reputation unravel in just 1 week, and the most shocking part is that many of the biggest setbacks came from her own decisions. This isn't simply a story about a referee making a controversial call or the league unfairly targeting a player. What began as a hard foul that could have faded from the headlines within a single news cycle quickly exploded into a much bigger controversy. In the hours and days that followed, Carrington's own actions and public responses turned one on-court incident into a full-blown reputation crisis.
Did y'all see what happened when this young lady got ejected from a WNBA game the other day for a flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham? Did y'all see that? She got ejected from the game for that flagrant foul right there. And I'll be damned if that wasn't a flagrant too. She mugged her. Damn near came across like decapitating her, for crying out loud. That was definitely a hard foul. Make no mistake about it. Nobody can argue about it. You can say what you want. We know what we saw. No way around it. The Dijonai Carrington foul was clearly unnecessary. It was a flagrant foul penalty too. It was absolutely positively correct call. It was called the flagrant two. That's a flagrant two every single damn time in the NBA and the WNBA.
Late in the first quarter of the nationally televised matchup between the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever, Sophie Cunningham broke free on a fast break with what looked like an easy path to the basket. But before she could finish the layup, Dijonai Carrington came charging from behind and made heavy contact across Cunningham's head and neck, sending her crashing hard to the floor. After reviewing the play, officials upgraded the call to a flagrant foul penalty, citing contact they deemed unnecessary and excessive. Carrington was immediately ejected from the game. As she made her way off the court, cameras captured her expression, and it was clear this wasn't just another routine foul. The moment had already become the kind of incident that could follow a player long after the final buzzer.
Dijonai Carrington tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this, she fouled Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouls her hard. Flagrant two, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant two has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. Dijonai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege, this was not it.
This is where Dijonai Carrington faced a critical choice, and almost immediately, she appeared to make the wrong one. Just minutes after being escorted from the court, Carrington took to social media and posted the words "white privilege," directly tagging the Indiana Fever. There was no explanation, no added context, just two highly charged words dropped into an already explosive national controversy. The situation became even more intense because Sophie Cunningham's name had already been connected to a separate and unrelated debate surrounding transgender athletes in women's sports. Carrington then posted the date of the next Sky Fever matchup alongside a smiley face emoji. To many viewers, the timing made it look less like an innocent post and more like a deliberate provocation, almost as if she were daring the controversy to get even bigger.
I would actually say that this is black privilege, to be totally honest with you, because her posting this white racist comment right after assaulting Sophie Cunningham on the court is actually black privilege because she knows the WNBA won't do a single thing of significance about it. And imagine if the roles were reversed. If Sophie made a comment similar to this, then she'd likely never play again. And actually, we just saw this from Coach Sandy Brondello. She got disciplined for making, I believe, a pretty innocent, maybe, offhand comment about talking about Angel Reese and saying that she's a protected species. She was suspended and disciplined. And I think if that's the standard, then Dijonai should be too.
Think about the optics of that sequence for a moment. A player gets ejected following a flagrant foul, and instead of stepping away and letting emotions settle, she immediately posts one of the most politically and culturally charged phrases in today's public conversation without offering any explanation. Whatever Carrington intended by those words, the impact of the initial post was already enormous. In the days that followed, she offered multiple explanations, but the first impression had already been made. To millions of people watching the controversy unfold, the post appeared appeared to suggest that race had played a role in how the foul was called or how she was treated. That is a serious implication to make, even indirectly. And once a statement like that goes viral, it becomes extremely difficult to completely undo its impact. No matter how many explanations follow, the original message is already out there, and people have already formed their opinions about what they believe it meant.
I'm just wondering, is this all some sort of bizarre PR strategy to attract eyeballs, or is the WNBA fundamentally broken?
No. That's you, because you're a good person trying to find some kind of rational reason for doing this other than what it is. It's pure and simple racism and hate. They're mad that the best player in the league is a heterosexual white woman. Let's just be honest. She's not one of the confidants in their creed. And so therefore it's been a concentrated effort to go after her. Even her head coach doesn't stand by. So, and I think it's hilarious, and at the same time, they don't know what a woman is. And I'm very proud of Freedom and other gentlemen for finding out who they are. And I wish them the best. And hopefully the league will, since it's an all tolerant league and their head coaches wear shirts about trans women count. Well, here's two. And I hope they give them their opportunity, and the young lady in France as well. So I think it's a league that has got away with being racist and disgusting to people, and now they're Americans are smart to it. So hopefully they get some of their own, but I wouldn't let my daughters watch it.
That post didn't stay contained for long. Within hours, it spread across basketball social media, and the conversation quickly shifted far beyond the original foul. What began as a controversial on-court incident suddenly became a heated debate about race, intent, and whether Carrington's post was being used to frame the incident in a completely different light. That's when the situation really began to spiral. Instead of the focus remaining on the flagrant foul itself, discussions turned toward whether Carrington was implying that the officials, and by extension, the league, had acted with racial bias despite no clear evidence being presented to support that claim. National media outlets soon picked up the story, and sports talk shows were debating the controversy the following morning. At that point, the spotlight was no longer centered on basketball. The foul had become part of a much larger and far more explosive conversation.
But if we are paying attention to what Dijonai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege, and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever. So to me, it was just very ignorant and to some degree asinine by Dijonai Carrington to suggest that that call was based on white privilege. Have we seen examples of white players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. Have we seen examples of black players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. There was no white privilege involved in that specific call. Dijonai, you hit her in the head and you drew blood.
Then the backlash found a prominent voice. Former NFL player and media personality Emmanuel Archo addressed the controversy on his show and sharply criticized Carrington's post. He argued that the play involved contact to Cunningham's head, that she was injured, and that the ball was never touched. Archo described the idea of connecting that specific foul to white privilege as ignorant and, in his words, asinine. That criticism carried weight because this wasn't simply another random social media user attacking Carrington. Archo has a major platform, and his comments put Carrington's decision-making under a much larger spotlight. Once the clip began circulating, his criticism became one of the defining sound bites of the controversy, and then Carrington responded, but instead of calming the situation, her reply created another wave of debate. Rather than simply clarifying what she meant, Carrington fired back at Archo on X, arguing that she had never claimed the foul itself was white privilege, and that this was Archo's interpretation. She challenged him to use his critical thinking skills, and referenced his psychology background. She also pointed to her own education and pushed back against the idea that she was being ignorant or using the phrase without evidence. The problem was the mixed message. On one hand, Carrington insisted her original post had been misunderstood. On the other, she strongly defended the language while directly challenging the person criticizing her. To many viewers, that didn't feel like a straightforward clarification. It felt like a second argument layered on top of the first controversy. Now the story wasn't only about the original foul or the social media post. It was also about Carrington's response to criticism and whether she was successfully explaining her position, or simply making the controversy bigger. For fans who had been willing to give her the benefit of the doubt, this exchange became a turning point. What could have been a simple clarification instead looked, to some, like an attempt to win an argument after the controversy had already exploded. By then, the damage was no longer limited to what happened on the basketball court. The first post had opened the door, and every response afterward seemed to push the story even further into the spotlight.
Every single game for the rest of the season counts, and the fact that she let her hate and her ego cost the game for her entire team is so toxic. it goes to show that she has very little respect for her teammates, because they all work their absolute asses off. They've all got something to prove. They know that, they started the season with all this hype. They didn't kick it off very strong. And so they have all been working their asses off, coming together, playing patiently. When I say patiently, they've been playing patiently, learning how to actually run the court together. There's a lot of new pieces. There's been some injuries. There's been people returning from injury. There's been a lot of changes. The fact that they were just on the rise, and as a Fever fan, I can say they were actually schooling us in the first quarter. Like, they came back when we were up 8 points. Dijonai herself was balling out, and she just cost the game for her teammates.
2 days later, before Chicago's game against Seattle, Dijonai Carrington faced reporters and offered yet another version of the story. This time, she described the foul itself as unfortunate and unintentional, suggesting that rust from returning after a foot injury had affected her timing. But when reporters asked about the controversial white privilege post, her explanation remained vague. She said she had already spoken with people who had the ability to make the changes she wanted, but she never clearly explained what the original post meant or exactly who she was addressing, and that created a growing problem. 3 days, 3 different explanations. First, the hard foul was presented as part of her competitive nature. Then came a viral post about white privilege that, according to her later explanation, apparently wasn't referring to the foul at all. Then came a follow-up response defending the original post while insisting people had misunderstood it. That shifting explanation is exactly how a controversial moment can turn into a reputation problem. Reporters, fans, and brand partners were all left trying to figure out the same thing. What was Carrington's actual message? And every new attempt to explain the situation seemed to create another question instead of finally answering the ones people were already asking.
She posted white privilege after getting tossed from the game, but says it wasn't about the foul. Can you explain this?
No, I can't. When she tweeted white privilege, she did it so quickly, it was almost as though she had the phone in her pocket after this foul and she got ejected. So, I mean, to say she wasn't referring to this play or getting kicked out and saying that the only reason she got kicked out and it got upgraded is because Sophie Cunningham is white is crazy. It was a crazy thing to tweet, maybe crazier than to try to act like it had nothing to do with the play. So I have no idea what she's talking about. I don't think anybody can have any idea what she's talking about. Bizarre.
Oh my God, it's getting real. It is getting very much real. For in the field, for them pockets. That's what I like to see. Pockets getting hit hard, bro. Hard. Because somebody need to hold these players accountable for the stupidity they have been putting out. Because it has been a lot of stupidity. And to add even more insult to injuries, thousands of people are calling for Reebok to drop their endorsement for Dijonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham. Now, this was from earlier this morning.